Welcome to Sailboat Show Live. This is your co-host, Peter Schrappen. There's Mark Bunzel, my other co-host.
Hello, Peter.
How's it going, my friend?
Pretty good. I'll let you in on a little something that happened to me today that I got my second COVID shot.
Oh, okay.
So
congratulations.
Now, I'm a little worried. I was really warned yesterday, be prepared. Your energy is going to be shot. You might be sick. You might be sore. You might be this.
You call those Thursdays, don't you, Mark?
Yeah.
That's your.
And then I thought today, well, this isn't so bad. And then somebody else said, well, it's worse if it's really working. Now I'm worried. Is it really working? So anyway, you can't win.
Right. Exactly. Get you coming and going. Darn if you do, darn if you don't.
Exactly.
So
what's going on in your world, Peter? You always have something. And by the way, we should probably tell everybody, Leonard and Lorena are off at the Fidalgo Yacht Club tonight, running that presentation. And Peter, how much longer do we have you?
For a few more minutes. I'm bouncing in and out of meetings. I'm actually also tied up with the Snohomish County Community Conversation. That's a lot of C's. Community Conversation is a new 2 words put together for me. They are meeting tonight to talk about wake surfing on the lakes, Lake Rossinger and Lake Goodwin and Lake Stevens. Right now, they're talking with the community about regulations. And there's been a lot of conversation around there already. And this is one of 4 different meetings to figure out what makes the most sense for the neighbors and the boats on these lakes around wake surfing. It's a big issue, not just in Washington State, but around the country. So I just left there to say hi to everyone. And I wanted to wish everyone a happy National Chili Day. Happy National Chili Day, Mark, to you and yours.
Well, it was National Margarita Day a couple of days ago. So
just one. That's only one day a year. A happy clam chowder day and happy chocolate covered nut day. And I know that's a big fan favorite of my mom, whose birthday it is today. So I wanted to wish my mom, hi mom, happy birthday to you. So I know she's watching, culminating her day in St. Louis with Sailboat Show Live, as she should.
Yes.
So yeah, we appreciate my mom's being a faithful.
Well, we should thank her also. I mean, if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have you.
Oh God, it's a blessing and a curse, right, Mark? No, this is episode 36. I think she's been with us each of the 36 different episodes. So
yeah,
we had some success this week, Mark. I wanted to share around the Mount Lake Bridge in the Seattle area. They're washed out, wants to make some changes to that, wants to do some repairs, and they put a local notice to mariners, which is a new publication that I need to read, Mark, because I have not been reading it. And the bridge administrator there raised a red flag and said, hey, time out, that we've got 0 comments on making changes. Boaters don't care 1 iota about about closing the Mount Lake Bridge. So he reached out and to the maritime community. I got an email from him and I said, oh yeah, actually we do care a lot actually. And he ripped up the proposal. He's going back to WSDOT, requiring WSDOT to reach out to RBA and NMTA to figure out what will work best for us, and then they can think about moving forward. So a really cool story, really quick issue. I don't get a lot of quick issues. It was a nice win for us this past, Monday and Tuesday. So yeah, good stuff there.
Congratulations. And we've got some other things coming up where I've gotten some phone calls and people saying, hey, can we get feedback from your audience on Seattle Boat Show Live? And I said, let's do it. So we'll be reaching out to our audience in the next couple of weeks on some new issues that are coming up for you to get your input in. So This is exciting.
Yeah, we could actually start thinking about having polls. I'm taking an etiquette class right now, Mark. You might find that hard to believe. You're like, oh, Peter, you know everything about etiquette.
I think I nominated you for that class.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I need a sponsor for that. Yeah. Grossbeck Realty Group to sponsor me for etiquette class. Now I'm in week 2 of my second of 4 classes on business etiquette. So that's been a lot of fun. I had Arden Kleiss on Seattle Boat Show Live during the
Minute or two.
Boat Show TV during the boat show, and we hit it off.
Yeah.
And I signed up for her course and thinking about my kids getting signed up for them as well. But it's been a very busy week for me, but a good week. So thanks. Yeah.
Looking for calipers?
We got Mike Beamer. Mike, do we bring you on? We hear you chitter chattering in the background. Why don't you come on if you can? There he is.
There's Mike
Oh my
Beamer.
God, Mike. We're off to a fun start already. Mike, as you say hello, I'm going to say goodbye to get back to this Snohomish County meeting. But Mike, it's always great to see you.
Good.
Mark, keep him in. Thank you, Mark. You keep him in order. You're
Will
watching
do.
him
And
tonight.
Peter, we've got an exciting show next week. I'll talk about it later in this show.
All about the whales.
All about the whales and the seals, and you bet.
Okay,
So,
take care. Good night, everybody.
thanks, Peter. Thanks
Okay.
for joining
Thanks,
us.
Peter.
Sure.
Before we go on to Mike, we usually give you updates, and we've got some neat updates coming up. Some of them we can't talk about this week, and that's also very exciting. But one of the things, probably the question that I get asked most often every day, at least 2 or 3 emails or calls, is, Mark, tell us when the border's going to open up. As though I have some control. I have no control over this, just so we know. But I do watch it so closely. And this week we had a situation where our new president, Joe Biden, met with Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, and they had a very cordial meeting. They did not get into opening the border, but I don't want to give too much optimism, because if anything, I'm getting a little bit more pessimistic about the summer as we get closer. And people are calling me saying, well, should I abandon my plans to go to Canada? And I'm kind of starting to say, develop your backup plans. I don't see any reason or any hints. I don't have any inside information that the border will be open. Now, we are still making plans to do a transit of British Columbia up to Alaska. And I'll be announcing that on our website as well as on this show, probably next week or the following week. But that still has some risk. As we've heard in prior shows, the judgment call, whether we get allowed to pass through Canada or not, is really up to the customs agent that we present our materials to when we get there. So we could get there and they could say, nope, sorry, this doesn't look like it's discretionary. And that could be the end of it. We'll see. I have been checking with the number of people who've been doing it and taking their boats through. Some of them have been guests on the show. And if you follow the rules, it sounds like we might be able to do it, but I don't want to give too much optimism over this one. So I'll keep watching it. I'll be reporting on it every week. For those of you who are calling and emailing me, I have no new information, and our audience here will probably hear it first. And Mike, are you planning, if the border's open, are you going to go up into BC?
Yes, Mark. I've only missed 1 year in the last 20, probably 25. So
It's true.
That was last year. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But I am definitely starting to think backup plan. So
Yep. Well, I should properly introduce you. I have to do full disclosure. Michael and his wife Lynette are my business partners on Seattle Boat Show University during the boat show, and we do the seminars at Skagit Valley College. And we've been collaborating on things as well as cruising together for, I think we figured out 17 or 18 years. We still like each other, and which is pretty amazing. And I have learned so much from Mike, and Mike is my go-to for anything boat maintenance wise, and he should be. Mike is the department head at Skagit Valley College and the Marine Technology Department. And he's literally built this department from zero. And they're now cranking out mechanics and going out. And I have several of them that work on my boat that are just excellent, great people, great mechanics. And but Mike, why don't you, I could tell the story, but it's a better story when you tell it. How did you get involved in all this mechanical? What spurred you on?
Yeah, well, thanks, Mark. Yeah, so I'm here at the Marine Technology Center. This is my office where I work because we run classes till 9 p.m. I'm not always here that late, but tonight I am. And I grew up in Michigan, kind of son of a master mechanic. And my dad would drag home motorcycles and outboard motors and, boats. If I could, he'd teach me, but if I could make them run, I was out having fun on the water. And so it's just been in my blood. And I learned when I was in college, if I could fix boats, I could make a lot more money than some of the other jobs. And so I paid most of my way through the UW fixing boats down there in Lake Union. So I've got ties to the Seattle show and all of this stuff and and the classes we teach. And it's clearly a passion. So it's what I do for my recreation. It's what I do for earning money.
And you have a master's degree in education or math?
In education.
In education.
And career, yeah. In CTE, career tech education. I'm one of the only instructors in the entire country that does marine schools that has a master's degree, as far as I know. So,
Mike, you're going to have to keep going for that PhD.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna let my partner Lynette do that. She, so she can have one up on me. So
Yeah.
But yes, we are all about education, whether it's training new technicians here in Anacortes or the courses that Mark's talking about that we traditionally do with boat owners or flotillas. And projects. I really like being a connector and seeing these students shine, like, when, Mark's propeller shaft falls apart, and he comes and asks why, and one of my students puts a new one in for him, and fun things like that, they're boats. And so that's our whole world up here in Anacortes.
I should clarify, Sean put my shaft in. He's a former student, now running his own business. I did not get it for free.
No.
But it was money well spent, and he's a fantastic mechanic, and I trust him. And it's so important to have a mechanic that you can trust.
So, anyways, so we've been kind of the theme tonight is talking about boats, and we're all passionate about boats. And hopefully this is the time of the year when people are thinking spring maintenance and starting to work on their boats, right, Mark? And, we have, that's what we do.
Yeah.
And so I've started on our Cruisers College page, I've started a little spring checklist that's still in draft form, but we're building on it. We're going to have this comprehensive list so everybody kind of knows how and what they should be doing, because a lot of people just don't know. And that's what
we have your prior version on the Wagner Guide site already. I can't wait to see the new one. Now you have me worried. What am I not doing to get my boat ready to go?
Another boat unit, I'll tell you.
Yeah. And for those of you not aware of boat units, it's another $1,000. That's a boat unit. It just seems to be that way. And just say to yourself, it's worth it when I get out there on the water. It's just fantastic. So you guys took on a really interesting project, and a project that would have some legs that people could follow along, get involved, get interested. And that's the King's Pride project. And I noticed Jennifer King came in on the chat line with a question a few minutes ago. So she's watching somewhere in the snowdrifts of Wisconsin tonight. But Mike, tell us how the King's Pride project got started, because I think this is so cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool too. It's been a little exhausting. So as part of our teaching platform, we've done a lot of boat projects. We've done things from just small runabout boats. Somebody gives us a nice little, one of them was a Bayliner Capri. We dropped a new engine in it, made all the electrical work, and sold it. And we're not out there to make money. We're out there to teach people how to fix things and make it authentic. And we've had a couple of students who student boat projects that have went off and went cruising. So we had a student, Mark, who went from here to Mexico to Hawaii and back, and he brought his boat in here and we did the rig. And so my students started talking offshore sailing, and they're like, let's do a little bigger project. And so sure enough, we've had that idea going. And yes, so King's Pride came in, and it's got a great story from Jennifer, who's in our audience. So we started looking at, we do the offshore sailing seminar every year with John and Amanda. So John Neal, he helps people buy boats on the side. And so he goes, all right, he's talking to us staff members and he's like, don't buy this and don't buy that. And this is what you should do. And so we had some professional advice on buying a sailboat, and I scrounged together a few shekels. And I said, I'm going to go buy a boat, and you know how it is when you're excited, you start looking at Yacht World. Ooh, what do you think about this one? What do you think about this one? And it was like, no, too expensive, whatever. And that's when the story of Jennifer comes in. She's teaching electronics and she comes in and we're talking at dinner time. And she says, well, Dad's got a boat and it's our family boat. And I think he'll sell it. It's time to pay it forward. And he actually built the boat himself. So back when the Westsail was going through some transitions and they wanted to try and save the company, Bob Perry designed a boat for him, and it's a Westsail 39. And Jennifer's dad, I'm going to share my screen here for a second. There's a picture of the boat real quick while I talk. And so they bought it as a hull and deck kit. Her dad finished it out when she was a young child, and they actually did the dream. They sailed down into Mexico. They did some local Catalina Islands, stuff like this. They did down to Mexico. They went to Hawaii. They came back. And so this was their family boat. She grew up on it for about, I don't know, a good almost 40 years. And so it was tired in time. And I apologize, Jennifer, if I mix up any of the facts. She's watching, and family, but we're going to do a video with Jennifer and some of the pictures from the build. So that's how it came to be. It was like, we're going to buy a boat. We never even looked at any other boats. We went out to her boat, said, called John Neal. He said, Westsail 39, they sail great, buy it. So we did.
Well, and then you called up the designer of the boat and asked him if he would get involved and join you guys. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that was an interesting one. We Bob Perry, he's local Northwest, he's legendary, and it tickled me. I grew up sailing on one of his boats, Tanya 37, and he's come to our class and talked to students, and it's always fun from boat design because my students are like, Bob, the engine access is terrible, and he's like, I'm not worried about engine access. I like to go sailing, And so Bob was great. And I said, Bob, would you mind coming up? And he came up and brought a set of plans, and we looked at the whole boat and talked about a few potential changes. And it was just a delight. And so he let us roll video.
He signed the boat, didn't he?
Not the boat yet. He's going to. We'll talk about that in our sail away package. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but he did let us roll video of the whole, it was almost an hour that he spent just talking boats and about the project. And so that's one of the reasons where, like, I love our area. We have so much in the maritime, everything in the boat building and cruising and all of these boat builders, and they're just willing to help out us as a hub because we're just training technicians that everybody needs. And so they're always willing to support and give to us. That's the definition of a community college is the whole community.
Yeah.
So that was a treat to have Bob come up for sure. So,
and he's going to stay involved, and
Yep.
Whoever buys the boat at the end will have a signed Bob Perry boat.
Yeah. So there's some good benefits to it. So
now what I got a kick out of is some of the features he did. Jennifer at one point showed me how they had designed the forepeak as her bedroom as a little girl. And she, it's kind of interesting when you think that your parents tell you, we're going to go out in the ocean. We're going to go to all these places, and here is your bedroom. And we will have Jennifer on one of these days to talk about this. It kind of brings tears to my eyes because I think it's a neat story. But what kind of shape? Now, Jennifer's dad was getting elderly, and unfortunately he passed away last year. I think he passed away after this had happened, so he knew King's Pride was going to go to a good home and be well taken care of. But what happened when you walked on the boat, looked at the boat, pulled it out of the water?
Yeah, Mark. Well, we, like I said, we just bought it and we went down and looked at it. It was close to home. We didn't have to pay to ship it. And we have to admit, we didn't actually get a survey or anything. We just looked at the boat. It was in the water. We don't recommend that to anybody. It was Jennifer was like, as is, whereas their lives were busy. The boat needed some things. And as with every boat, it gets to kind of a, like a half-life, refit is what we call it. And so we just figured, with the tie to the college, and we would go for it. So yeah, and the boat, I have share a little picture here of the boat again on the transom that I really like. It's there's King's Pride, and the name is right, Jennifer King. So we are sticking with that name. I love it. And so this was King's Pride, the pride of building and fitting out a whole interior of a boat. That is a monumental task, and doing the sailing trip. Like, you couldn't ask for anything more, really. And so there it is as we started stripping it down. And so we say the name stays. We're going to get it a new decal put on there, but if someone else wants bad luck, they can change the name. So we're sticking with it because it's a great story. And there's Zach. We decided to be non-traditional and have former student Zach survey the boat after we bought it. So we really knew what we were getting into. And he agreed with us that the hull and deck was solid, which is what we wanted to hear. But the rest of it was in need of some, love. And so that was great. You notice the masks. I also put those pictures in there for a purpose. We yarded out the motor.
You should describe what that means, Mike. You yarded out the motor. What does that mean?
So, well, it had this old, we called it the Swedish Girl, and this Volvo engine. And so, well, first of all, in the middle of COVID now, we're on a 39-foot boat and we have to keep 6 feet away from everybody else. So that's a challenge. So we have students working in like 3 shifts to spread it out over the whole day. But we're making it happen. So yeah, actually that old engine fit out of the boat. It was raw water cooled since 1983, 82. So, 40 years, about time, with salt water in it. And it overheated on the way home, but it still worked. And so, yeah, we have a forklift, and that's one of the reasons why if you have a boat and you go buy a $20,000 engine and the boatyard says it'll cost another 20 to put it in or more, that's no exaggeration, because it took us so much time to think about and build and slide the motor forward and do a U-turn and protect the companionway, and it just squeaked out just like that. And so,
but that's incredible experience for the guys, women working on it. That's how it sometimes happens. I mean, every boat they look at, when they have to do an engine job, they're going to be measuring and trying to determine how do we lift this motor out of here without taking apart the interior.
Yeah. So, and we tried to, so in the fall, when you see this rigging, when I talk about this, we have a rigging class, and it's half sailboat rigging and half rigging about like lifting heavy objects and moving engines. And so we wanted this, we thought that this project would be perfect over the school year, because whenever systems come up that need to be done, we're teaching a class. And it just worked out that our curriculum is set up where in the fall, we pulled the mast, we pulled the motor, we did rigging, which is when rigging class is. And this spring, next quarter, I'll do plumbing, and electrical. And so we'll be putting in new plumbing, electrical. This winter quarter is engines and drivetrains, and we're putting in a new engine and a new drivetrain. And so it's been mapped out to, not just us talking in lessons about here it is and our training aids. It's like people can see it, like students can go out and get that hands-on. Now we send students out into yards and they do co-op experiences, and there's other ways they get hands-on. They spend 50% of their time in labs building things. But to have a real boat to be involved in, and the students are like, this is cool. Like, we're going to follow the history of where this boat goes next. So,
well, that's where I got really excited about it, that we're doing actual work. And at the end of this project, they're going to be able to take this boat out sailing before some lucky owner has it. and realized they were part of refitting this beautiful boat.
Yeah, it's like a dream for us. I mean, being crazy boaters that we are. And so the one of the cool things is, but it's also more work I didn't think about, is when you buy a boat like we're doing, we're not like an average boater might be put an engine in 1 year, use the boat for a while, upgrade their electrical system, use the boat for a while, realize the tanks are no good and have them replaced. Where we just said, no, we're going to rip the Band-Aid off fast. We're going to take everything out and just get to pick like Christmas. So I sit at my desk and I've got, here's my pump catalog. I'm choosing bilge pumps this week and stuff like this, and it's fresh. It's all going to be new. And so that's exciting. And we make assignments for students. In my electrical 2 class, they're doing inverter installations. And I have an assignment. We're putting an inverter system on King's Pride. How much is it going to cost? And how many hours do you think it's going to take to put that system together? And then they'll document it and we'll be like, well, you were off by a lot, when they find out how much time it really does take to put it in. And so we're just wrapping it completely throughout the whole curriculum and the committee.
Now, in the process, you've gotten really some people within the industry involved. Some things you're having to buy, and some things are donated. And I should probably put a plug in now that part of what you have been doing is doing YouTube videos on all of these different major steps. So if you're interested, what does it take to replace the engine on a sailboat? Mike and his crew have documented that, and you can actually see it and in all its ugly glory, right?
That's right. Yeah, thanks, Mark. It's definitely, yeah, we have multiple social media. My younger students really don't like it, and they get to see it and share it with their friends and stuff. And so we did decide to do, we call it amateur hour because the video is just kind of me mostly putting it together and learning to edit. But yeah, we have about 40 videos on the boat already, and there'll be at least 40 more before we're done. And then we've paired it with, I've done some cost breakdown. So when you're talking about the cost of things, I have a spreadsheet on the Cruisers College page that has actual cost month by month. January was, I don't know, almost 20,000, and December was 18,000. We had a couple of very expensive months. And so you can, out there, if you're interested in boats, you can go on and see how much we've spent each month. And we didn't actually have to pay for every single piece of equipment, like Mark said. When people donate to the school product and we sell it, then that money, of course, stays in the program to fund student stuff, to fund other projects and whatever we do. So we always get at least dealer cost and donations. And once again, it's that community coming together to help us, and we couldn't do it without their support.
Well, not only that, you get these top specialists to work on the boat with you. When you pulled the mast down, the mast needed to be repainted. And I was just thrilled to tell the story about repainting the mast.
Yeah, so let me show a couple of pictures up here, Mark. Somebody did ask about the website. I have it at the end. We'll pop up a slide with our contact information. But let me show a couple of pictures, because one of them is the mast, and then I'll tell the mast story. So the first thing that happened was after we pulled that engine, is we realized right away we had to put a tarp on it. Boat leaked like a sieve. And, we were taking the mast off and the anchor winch off, and, there's holes in the deck. So we put a little covered wagon on it. And I have to be careful what I say in film, because there's been 2 or 3 things when John and Amanda looked at the boat, and Amanda said, "Oh, you'll have to paint the mast." And I'm like, "No, I'm just going to put on new standing rigging. It doesn't need paint." Yeah, when you get it down and look at it, it desperately needed paint. And so there's our mast in the shop building.
How long is that, Mike?
It's 60 feet long, maybe a little
Wow.
more. Yeah. And so having a facility is great, but Michael Rolfing, local legend, one of the best painters in the whole country, probably for sure in this area. he came in and we prepped it. We did all, painting is all prep. But he came in and sprayed it. And so the mast is absolutely beautiful.
It's
Um,
gorgeous. It is gorgeous.
We had our local machine shop over here, Bill. He machined us new chain plates. So we bought some raw stainless steel stock. And by the way, if you have a 40-year-old boat, these had crevice corrosion, they had cracks, they had problems. If the wires holding the mast up come loose, you're having a bad day at sea. So we built new chain plates. This was the start of taking off the rudder. Steering is life or death at sea. And we've spent countless hours taking the rudder off, inspecting it. It was built really well. It's going to be reinstalled. So there's another big aspect. Look at these pieces. When you start crawling around down in the engine room, and we didn't see this when we went for our first boat ride. Probably would have made me nervous, but if you just cover your ears and just go la 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 and go for a ride, sometimes it works out. And so all of that stuff has been really good to us. So yeah, it's having that support is priceless.
Well, I just think also that experience of students and future mechanics being able to dive into it, open up the floorboards and look down and see the drivetrain needing quite a bit of corrosion work.
Yeah.
And makes you think twice about bonding and anodes and everything else you need to do to protect those things.
Yes, and we're building it as technicians and not as boat builders. So sorry, Bob Perry. We're not going to bury the engine someplace where it's not accessible, because we want this to be able to be maintained at a level like we've grown accustomed to. And so as having to look at our magic ball and try and make it as best as possible. It's not going to be perfect, but to really make things serviceable and accessible for whoever is, ends up with this boat. And
well, that's incredible, because this boat will probably end up doing some global cruising. Who knows where the next owners will take it. And boy, if it were me, I'd want to have this level of work done on it. I probably couldn't afford it, but this would be a way of having assurance that under the direction of a master mechanic like yourself and some eager students, this is fantastic. Now, I do want to say that your program has a dental program also, and I'm not volunteering for that for myself, but your wife Lynette's responsible for that program. She's probably cringing right now that I wouldn't go in and volunteer to be part of the dental program. But this is just phenomenal. So what systems really needed the most attention? The drivetrain, the cooling system, obviously the engine was huge.
Yeah, so we actually went with, I've already mentioned the up on deck. We're doing the standing rigging and painting the mast and, all of that stuff. We actually are doing basically, Mark, all of the systems. And we are doing this for our mission, if would just really make us happy. We want somebody to buy the boat and do a 7-year circumnavigation. So we are setting it up with the best refrigeration system we can. We are doing all new electrical, and we're doing not only a new engine, but a complete new drivetrain. And so I got a couple of pictures here. And one of the things I didn't mention is it's authentic learning, and it's great for students. The behind the scenes is, and I've got great staff support too, is more than half of the work. It's just like when you're painting, and 80% of the work is all just the prep and the grunt work. The refit is exactly like that. And so our students got to scrape paint, and they got to sand, and they got to grind, and yeah, they're going to see the glory, but it really mimics the real world as well. And so it's important. And, that's why a lot of, boats are expensive and they add cost. So here's some, let's go a little more picture time. So this is what was great is Bob Perry brought us the original design, the plans, and the engine was way up on the other side of my index finger in the galley. And we were moving it aft quite a bit. And what that meant was we want to fit this brand new Yanmar in. And so that's our engine. It's sitting there in the warm shop waiting to be installed. And there's Art. He is the lead guy on this, and he is just such an asset. And this was us removing the strut and figuring out how to do a whole new shaft and stern bearing assembly. We're putting on a new propeller. Look at that beauty. This boat is going to drive and punch through waves like nobody's business. And so it's been a complete kind of redesign on that whole system to bring it up to modern standards, as to what we would do. All the fuel tanks have come out and have been fixed up. And luckily they were stainless tanks. They're in good shape, but you never know with an old boat. So they all got inspection ports put in them. They all got cleaned. We're building the Nigel Calder style of fuel system with stripping ports and good filtration. And, with the idea that you could fill this boat up anywhere in the world, with diesel fuel and keep going. So tons and tons of systems. We're redesigning the whole electrical system. When I say that we'd like it to go around the world, we sit around with our coffee in the morning and talk about how can we build a system that can run on 120 volt 60 cycle here, and then sail across and go to the Mediterranean and plug in with their 220 volt 16 amp 50 hertz. And so that's what we do. And we're going to try and showcase this. And that's what we hope people want to follow, is how do you solve these problems and do things?
Well, this is what I love. You've done YouTube videos on almost all of these sub projects within it. So if somebody was thinking about electrical changes or fuel tank changes, they can go to those YouTube videos and get the good thinking that your team had and how they went about making that change. I have so many friends who now, before they do anything on their boat, they search, watch the YouTube video, and that becomes their Bible of how to go about doing it. And it's a very powerful tool, and you've made this all available to us. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
I've got a tough question for you, and that's when we did John Neal and Pete McGonaghy at the Seattle Boat Show Connect, their seminar, we talked about refurbishing old boats versus buying one refurbished to what you want. Now, and their point was it costs so much typically to refit a boat and will take a year or two. You're sometimes better off shopping for that boat that is already fixed and in great shape. Are you proving that out with the cost that we're seeing on this boat?
Absolutely, Mark. We're doing it because we're a little nuts and we like boats, and our students are into it. But yes, the logistics of buying a fixer-upper boat, if you're paying somebody in a yard to do it, you will never recoup your money, and it costs you way more money in the end. The cost of ownership. If you can buy a boat that needs much less work. Now, if you're buying a used boat, they're all going to need some work. But yes, you have to have the skills and the passion and enjoy the process if you want to buy a fixer-upper boat. You should never, ever do it to save money. If you want to go sailing, I'm with John and Pete. Buy a boat that's ready to go sailing. I look at some of these YouTubes where people have spent 3, 4, 5 years fixing up a boat to go sailing and trying to save money. They'd be better off just working a job for a few years and buying a boat and going, working 2 jobs. They'd make more money. So it's definitely a consideration. So
when you're doing your cost estimates, as you do various things, you're totaling the labor hours. Are you putting a cost to that, or is that up to the user to do?
No, we can't put any money in, to be honest, Mark, for labor, because we wouldn't make anything. I mean, we couldn't sell it. It's
right.
That tight that if you just add up, so we bought this boat it's on the website for $25,000. We are going to put probably 60 or 70 into it, and it's still going to need a couple more things. We're going to save the upholstery and the color of the sail cover for the new owner. A few things like that. But if you had to put in labor, you'd have $200,000 into this boat.
Right.
And you'd be better off, you could buy one for half that, that was in good shape. So the beauty
Yeah.
will be, it's all going to be new and designed and ready to go. We're hoping to get a little more money than the parts that are put into it, whoever buys it, so that, it ends up putting some money into our budget for all the hard work we've done. But I think I've talked to many people. I think we will prove that there really isn't a business model of refitting boats, old boats. It's just not, the cost is too prohibitive.
So I hear that, and that's great advice, because we do see people buying that $20,000 boat that, 3 months later sinks at the dock and has to be taken to the wrecking yard, which is always sad. But the other thing is when is this boat going to become available? When do you expect her to be done?
That is a great question as well. So, well, let me comment about you. Kudos when you bought your boat, because I remember you asked me about it and you said, hey, I'm looking at this Tollycraft. I said, tell me about it. Upgraded diesel motors, diamond sea glaze windows, da 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 da. Somebody else had put twice as much money in your boat as you paid for it. And I'm like, buy that boat and look how many years of great boating you got out of it. Because the work had already been done. So that's when you're looking for boats. There's definitely some things to look at. So our goal originally was to have the boat done in the late June at the end of the school season, and have her for sale. We're a little behind schedule because that, well, it's a boat. There's unknown things everywhere. The whole drivetrain changing is different, but when you see the boat on the and what we've done with moving the engine aft and the accessibility and the new prop and its shaft and everything, it's huge. So that put us a little behind schedule. What we find is we don't know. And painting the mast, we figured we'd put the mast right back up, and there goes another month's worth of work. So I quit putting things on film, like when it's going to be done, because it'll be done when it's done. But
and then when it's done, how is it going to be an auction or bids? How are you thinking of doing this?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. We've sold a couple of other boats through our program, and it is state property, so it has to be available for public offers for at least a couple of weeks. And so when it gets closer, and depending on COVID, we will arrange some tours, scheduled tours for people who are interested in purchasing the boat later in the spring, after we get it halfway put back together. And it'll go up with people following our YouTube channel and some of the other local support. We'll get it listed, and we'll probably just say, this is what we have into it. We'll be a silent bid. We'll just take offers, tell us what your top offer is, and that'll be that. And then we'll have backup offers in case they don't have enough pennies in their piggy bank, So.
And I should say that it's pretty complete, including instruction. I know I'm donating a full set of cruising guides for the boat, and other people are donating things. This is going to be quite a package, mainly because of the excitement and enthusiasm about being part of this.
Yeah, and I thank you, Mark, and our other supporters. Yeah, we've dreamed up the sail away package, we call it, and we're going to have Mark's given. So we think whoever buys it should spend a year, kind of shaking the boat down and making sure everything's good. But the best trip they could do is around Vancouver Island. Go up the inside, check all your systems, and sail down the outside. So Mark has volunteered to give the cruising guides for Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
And a little bit of instruction on weather and tides. John Neal is going to give a free pass for his sailing seminar for a weekend. He's also going to give a half a day on kind of world cruising routes, because he spent, 40 years out in the ocean. Bob Perry, we're going to get him to sign the boat. We're going to get him to sign. He brought us 2 sets of plans, one to get all greasy and dirty and beat up, and one set that we can give to the new owner. So we'll get that done. We're going to send whoever buys it off with a GoPro, and hopefully they'll send us a little footage we can put on our YouTube channel that says, look at what we're doing, these students built this, and we're out here living the dream, wherever it is that they're at, a picture in Mexico or the Caribbean would be awesome. So.
And I keep telling Mike, I am volunteering that I will go out with Mike in the beginning for the short shakedown. We'll go out the straits, out into the ocean, turn around and come back. And that'll be the trip of a lifetime, and be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we also joke around here. Well, we want Jennifer to take the boat out for a week at the islands as well. And do a vacation on it back after she's brought into her glory. But the staff just jokes around that I'm going to put in for a sabbatical. If nobody buys it, it's probably worth more money, Tahiti, I'm thinking maybe, New Zealand, and I'll just take it different places until people buy it. So.
Yeah. Jennifer sent in a note on the chat line, and she's watching and obviously excited about this, and a huge supporter about the program. And Jennifer and her partner Monica have a marine electronics business. They do our work on my boat, on Leonard Lorena's boat, putting our systems in. We try out these state-of-the-art cutting edge systems. And we've always got these great questions for Jennifer. Why doesn't this work like this? And she'll just dive right in, and that's the end of my plug for Jennifer and Monica's work.
Yeah,
they do fantastic, and they're honest, and that's the thing that I value the most, is that I can have that conversation and trust that what she's telling me is the truth, if it's going to cost money or more money. So and it's worth it.
We actually, her students are building VHF cables and stuff tonight in the lab. That's one of the activities. They gotta put stuff together. Her company KNR is also donating. They've got wind instruments and some transducers that we're putting in the boat that are going to be outfitted and part of the sail away package. So yeah, big thanks to them. And look, stay tuned. We'll get a history of this boat, and some old photographs are going to come out pretty soon. And so I'm going to share my screen for a second, Mark, because people have asked about, they could do a screenshot maybe. There is the way to get a hold of me if you have questions about the Marine Tech program, if you know somebody who wants to come here and learn how to fix boats and do work. The spreadsheet and stuff, there's a blog, is on cruiserscollege.org. And on YouTube, you go to the SVC Scallywag, spelled with a K. And so, and put comments on there if you're watching the videos about what we're doing. We like comments. So.
Yeah, lots of views for these videos, and people are really enjoying them. So when you have some time to spare, be careful. Once you start into it, you'll be watching again and again and again, and there's great information. It's such a great project. So Michael, what next? I mean, I'm going to need another power boat here in a year and a half, and something to go to Alaska and back, and up and down the coast. How would this all happen? Are we like a doctor waiting for a donor recipient to come along?
Yeah. Well, so far it's just worked out. It's just, it's serendipitous. And yeah, a lot of people say, like, wait a minute, you're Inside Passage Alaska people. You should be doing a power boat, or at least a motor sailor. We like pilot houses, but it was those former students that affected the whole tribe down here with that gleam of Dave and Sarah spent 7 years in the South Pacific, and they left Port Townsend. And so they were telling stories of cruising. And then Mark took his boat to Mexico. And so with John Neal doing his offshore seminars, that's why we ended up with the sailboat to start with. But I think we're in a perfect location to find a power boat that maybe doesn't need everything, but maybe needs a new engine, or even just the stuff that we like to do, electrical and furnaces, and and so if the model proves to be sustainable, there'll be other boats in the future that people can follow along and see.
Well, and I should point out that not all these boats are donation boats. You do put up some money to purchase the boat, maybe not what it truly could get on the market, but it's typically a good deal for both. There's not always a broker involved, so the money's going to a good cause, but you're working out this business model that the college, in essence, the state buys the boat.
Mhm. Yeah, so after this project, we will have a little more money in the bank. We were really strapped on this first project. And I shamelessly say, if anybody wants to donate to the Skagit Valley College Foundation, they are great people and great supporters of what we do. And you can get a hold of me or them, and you can help support the program and future technicians. So there's my shameless plug for myself. Look at this. This
There it
is
is.
in December. This is the foundation. Skagit Valley College are great. This is a little people counter, and it's at the top of the stairs. And every time somebody goes up, they're supposed to push the button. And we're up to like 1,500 trips, and a lot of students forget. So it's literally halfway done, and we've put a couple thousand trips up the staircase. And, it's those little things that people don't think about. Yeah, you're refitting a boat, but it's 2 flights of stairs up, It's like going to a 2nd-story building all the time, and you're up and down all day long. So
I want to go back to what you were saying with donations, because I've already seen a couple of our very enthusiastic boaters getting involved, making a legacy gift in the name of their father or mother, and putting that money towards this program at Skagit Valley College. And the reason is they know the value of it, getting good mechanics and good trained mechanics out there. And, they can see their money in action, and it'll benefit all of us.
yeah, this project is part of that.
Yes.
Mark knows for 10 years, we've been working with the community and gathering little bits here and there. And community colleges don't have budgets. I couldn't have 5 years ago said, I need $100,000 in my account to buy a boat and fix it up. They'd all thought I was crazy. They're like, no, you get a $2,500 budget. And so we went out and campaigned and raised money so that we could, this was our dream and our passion, but we had to essentially self-fund it and to prove that it works. And so we're excited at the end of the day. We're tired. It's been a lot of work, but we're excited.
So what are the big learnings besides what we covered already of, buy a boat, don't buy a extreme fixer-upper. Financially, it just doesn't pan out.
Mm-hmm.
But there are good boats out there. I know I'm thrilled with my boat that somebody had put some good money into it, good upgrades, and an older boat. Mine's 40 years old, but it's a sturdy boat and good engine, good bones in it. And even King's Pride, great bones on that. And I think there's going to be a line of people wanting to take a good hard look at buying that and knowing how well it's been taken care of.
Yeah,
we had a question that came up asking about donations, and I think the best thing is for them to just call you.
Yeah, call or email me, and I don't take the money. I don't deal with money, luckily. I got enough on my plate with looking at buying inverters and Firefly batteries and things, but I could put you in direct contact with the foundation. It's super easy. And it's, of course, we're a school, it's tax deductible. But yeah, to follow up on that, Mark, with boats is don't buy a boat that needs a complete refit, but there are a lot of great boats out there, and there's a lot of good reasons to put money into your boat. The cost of new boats is getting to be very, very high. And so if you have a boat that you like, and you can be like, well, here's 3 kind of major upgrades that I would, consider doing, as long as it's not if you're buying a boat that's a complete refit, that's not a good idea. But if you own a boat and you're happy with it, always be careful about buying those bigger and bigger boats. Maybe if you just add a little bit to what you have and just keep doing, what my good friend Denny taught me, and Lynette, is every summer, just go out and use the boat that you have, and make sure you do what's important is spend time on the water, spend time with your family. And, at the end of the day, that's the important part.
Yeah, and I'd like to tell this unfortunate story that two owners before me owned my boat, a Tollycraft. They took the gas engines out of it, put two Hino diesel engines into it. They took the windows out, put in diamond sea glaze. Oh, maybe a little bit of overkill. A diamond sea glaze door from the cockpit really made it a very sturdy cruiser that, of course, I take back and forth to Alaska almost every year. And I have full confidence in that boat. Now, the sad part of the story is that owner, 2 owners ago, he did all these repairs and fix-ups because he wanted to go to Alaska. And he said, as soon as I get all these repairs done, I'm going to take this boat to Alaska. And the sad thing is he died before he could take that boat. So take Mike's advice. We own boats so we can use them and enjoy them. And there's so much that we can do. And I've watched Mike with his personal boat and the projects he's taken on. And he keeps those projects to the winter. And Mike has done, we'll have to feature Black Pearl at some point, because you've turned her from a sailboat to a very capable motor cruiser, and just beautiful looking boat and well thought out. And I just enjoy it anytime Mike and Lynette invite me, not to mention the fact that Lynette is an excellent cook, and we eat well and have a great time on the boat. And I like to tell the story that my second trip to Alaska, I went with, it might have been third or fourth trip, but I went with Mike and Lynette, and being teachers, they wanted to get up to Alaska quickly. And so we said, well, let's do a transit trip and just get the boat up there in the shortest amount of time. And I did about a 10-day itinerary, which I thought was pretty good. And we got down to the boat on a Saturday night. It was absolutely beautiful. The seas were calm. The moon was up. We were all excited about leaving, and we said, let's just leave right now. So we left the dock at 11 o'clock at night, took that 10-day itinerary, threw it out, and 5 days, 21 hours later, we were Anacortes to Ketchikan. 4 days? Oh, you're right.
3 days. 4 days total.
4 days total. We were in Ketchikan, Alaska, and we had caught a weather window, and it did get rough on the last day. And then after that, it got really rough. So if we had not pushed through that, we would have been sitting in Prince Rupert for maybe a week. But we just had a fantastic time, and it wasn't as difficult as I thought doing the 24/7 routine.
Yeah.
But we had enough crew that we could do it and have a good time. And Lynette kept us well fed, as well as being co-captain.
Yeah, she ran that early morning shift down the channels, man.
She did. And to this day, we still have great stories about that trip. It was Mike, Lynette, Mike and Lynette's son, Jordan, and myself and 2 dogs. And people always ask, how did you do that with the dogs? Well, Mike and Lynette have trained their dogs to use the deck and go out on the deck, and we didn't have to go ashore. And we just plowed right on through. Fantastic trip. I'll do it again, Mike, and I know Lynette's watching. She'll probably pop up in the chat line and go, no, I don't think so, Mark.
We're ready once the border opens up again. I'm doing the usual, working on the boat, doing all of my maintenance in these checklists. I'm checking every steering and upgrading batteries and alternators right now, and that's what we do. It's that time of year. But
I have to embarrass you just a little bit, just so people don't think you're a god and walk on water.
Oh.
But Mike had a problem about 2 or 3 years ago. He was doing some major work, replaced the engine on his boat. And then all of a sudden, I heard, oh crap, and he had looked down into the engine room, and all of the oil was out of his engine and down in the bilge. And what was that? A drain plug that came out?
Yeah, there was a line that snapped, oil pressure line. Small details. That's why we
Small
have early warning
details.
systems, and we knew to shut it off. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is also why people say, well, Mike, why on your checklist do you carry all this extra oil? And why do you carry all these extra oil filters and gas filters? And it's because stuff happens, unfortunately. And we've just learned over the years, and Mike's taught me to make sure we've got spare parts to cover it, so we're not stuck waiting for a part to come in. Mike, any last minute advice? You've given quite a bit of advice, and I think a lot of people will be watching your YouTube videos now.
I hope so. No, I think that's good, Mark. These Thursday night events are fun. It's been getting us through the whole long winter, and spring is around the bend. So yeah, we'll have everybody tune in, and they can get a hold of me or put some comments on YouTube, and we'll stay in touch.
And-
Wagner E-News always launches, lets people know if I have big things coming out. Mark is always helpful in sending out updates. So
Yep. And one last thing, we've got John and Amanda Neal doing their offshore cruising course, and you and Lynette set the dates for that. We're going to announce that on Wagner E-News. What is the date for that?
we are doing that April 13, 15, 17, I believe, from my brain.
Okay, so we'll have information on that on Wagner E-News, and I'll have more information to talk about next week. And yeah.
Anybody who's dreaming of buying King's Pride and wanting to sail on an ocean, it's a great seminar. It'll be the three of us. It's virtual, but it's going to have some homework assignments for you, some videos to watch on your own, and then we're going to have a lot of live chats and answering questions. And so we're looking forward to it. John and Amanda, have done like 175 of these presentations, so they're really good at it. And so we're going to carry on like we do every spring. So.
Yep. All right, Mike, that about wraps it up. And thank you everybody for watching. We've got another great Thursday night set for next week. We're going to be taking a little bit of a tour of SR3, which is a animal rescue center down at the Des Moines Marina. And Casey, the executive director there, is going to join us, tell us about the great work they're doing, saving marine animals in Puget Sound. And here again, something right in our backyard here. It's a new center they've built there, and they're going to have some open houses, hopefully in the late spring. So with that, if you get out on the water, be safe, have fun, and we'll see you in a week.
Thanks, Mark. See you later.
Good night. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Lynette. I know you're watching. And thanks, Jennifer.